The do-it-yourself ERP implementation is something that we're seeing more of in the industry, and I'm going to talk today about how you can manage a do-it-yourself ERP implementation or digital transformation. My name is Eric Kimberling. I'm the CEO of Third Stage Consulting. We're an independent consulting firm that helps clients through their digital transformation. And when I was growing up, my dad was a do-it-yourself type of guy. He would always mow his own lawn, change his own oil, fix his own transmission, basically do anything around the house that needed to be done. And so I have an appreciation for the do-it-yourself style and mentality. So similarly, we're seeing more companies that are taking their ERP implementations in-house and relying less on outside consultants. In today's video, I'm going to talk about some of the pros and cons of managing the do-it-yourself implementation, as well as some of the things you should be aware of as you take that sort of approach. The first thing is to understand the hidden costs of the do-it-yourself approach. A lot of times companies think they're going to save a lot of time and money by managing the implementation in-house, or they just don't have an understanding of what the real time and cost implications might be. So it's really important to understand what is the time factor and how much extra time and money might you be spending by not relying on outside help. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that it's not an all or nothing proposition. You might rely somewhat on outside consultants, but choose to take more of an active role and a hands-on role in your implementation. And if you do that, you just need to be prepared to understand that given that you're probably not experts in an implementation, it may take longer than if you use outside help. And for many organizations, that's okay. That's not as important as taking ownership of the project and potentially reducing short-term cost of the implementation. So that's one thing, is to understand what is the real time implication and what is the implication on cost. For some organizations, we find that they think they're going to save a lot of money by bringing this more in-house, but they end up spending more money in the long term because the project takes longer, or because they end up having to hire consultants anyway to come fix things that they didn't do well. So it's a matter of really walking that fine line and understanding how much you're really saving and how much you really want to bring in-house and do it yourself versus relying on outside consultants. Now, a second thing that can help with the do-it-yourself implementation is to hire the right resources. Chances are you as an organization don't have a bunch of experts on staff that have done dozens or however many ERP implementations or digital transformations, so you may need to bring in outside knowledge and skills to augment your current team and bring those in-house rather than necessarily bringing in consultants. And some ways you can do that are to certainly create positions that will be full-time roles on a project, and presumably you'll have a place to put those people longer term after the project is over. The other option is you can bring in outside consultants or individual contractors that are going to be on the project for the long haul, dedicated to your project, and eventually you may want to keep them on your staff longer term. So those are a couple ways you can look at how do we build the competency in-house so that we're not just handling a do-it-yourself project with our current staff, but we're augmenting our staff with outside resources, bringing them in-house to help build that competency, almost a sort of center of excellence for how to manage an implementation, and certainly how do we manage the post-implementation as well. A third critical component of the do-it-yourself approach is to have the right sort of training for your team. And it's easy to think that these projects are going to be easy, and if we just learn the software, then we're going to be okay and we're going to know how to manage the project going forward. And that's not true. What's really important is that we build the right tool sets and internal competencies via training and outside guidance and coaching and support to help make sure that our team has the knowledge and resources to be able to handle an ERP implementation themselves. Some examples of the types of training that you may want to look at for your team are going to be things like product-specific training. Whatever software you're implementing, whether it's SAP or Oracle or Microsoft Dynamics, whatever it is, there's going to be some sort of vendor and or third-party training that might help you and your team learn the product better so that you have a better handle on what the software can do, what the capabilities are, and you can manage the project better with that key knowledge. Another example of some good training that might help you in your transformation is on the organizational change side. A lot of organizations we work with will get ProSci certification on the change management side as a way to build a competency around change management. And we at Third Stage also provide another type of training that might help your team as well. It's an online coaching, training, and mentoring package that allows companies to take advantage of our thought leadership and our methodologies and our knowledge base to take that in-house to allow them to manage the project more successfully. So those are just a few examples of the types of training that might help your organization. I've included some links below that provide some more information around those potential training sources. And then finally, with the do-it-yourself model, we want to make sure that we find the right balance between doing it ourselves, but knowing where strategically we want to leverage on outside help. So for example, we may find that we're going to do all the heavy lifting ourselves in-house, but we want someone to coach us and guide us and provide the methodologies and tool sets to be able to do that. So it's important to view the do-it-yourself approach as not necessarily a black or white type of thing, but more of a spectrum and trying to figure out where on the spectrum you're going to fall. And one of the easiest ways to leverage outside help are companies like Third Stage. We can help provide coaching and guidance at a high level, even if we're not doing the hands-on heavy lifting like your team may be. We can certainly provide the coaching and the guidance to be able to do so. And then finally, the last thing we want to be aware of and cognizant of is just know when to ask for help when things change. You may have a plan now going into your transformation, but as things change and you see the results of the do-it-yourself approach, know when that you can pinpoint the points where you need to bring in outside help. There may be certain competencies you find along the way that you just don't have the right bench strength that you thought you did. Things like organizational change management or data migration or risk identification and quality assurance of the overall project. Those are areas where you can reach out to companies like Third Stage and ask for help in key areas while you end up doing the rest of the project or a majority of the project yourselves. So these are just some ideas on how you can manage a do-it-yourself ERP implementation. It's important to be aware and not overly optimistic of what the advantages of a do-it-yourself approach might be. But we've seen a lot of organizations that find a good deal of success by managing the project largely themselves and knowing when and where to use consultants strategically. And one of the biggest benefits we see is that the internal organizations have a lot more ownership of the project, and companies and teams that have more ownership of the project typically are more successful than ones that are trying to outsource a project completely to their consultants. So again, we're talking about two extreme sides of the spectrum here. Hopefully this provides you some guidance on where you might fall on the do-it-yourself side of the spectrum. I've included some links below. I hope you found this information helpful. The links below will provide some additional content and resources that might help you in your do-it-yourself journey. So I encourage you to reach out if you have questions, and also please subscribe to my YouTube channel for more thought leadership like this. Hope you have a great day.